But I'll tell you that Somalia has joined the East African community in a move intended to boost economic growth in the country following 3 decades of war. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud said joining the regional trade bloc was a beacon of hope for Somalia. He said it offered hope for a future of opportunities and prosperity. Somalia has been racked by conflict since 1991, and many parts of the country are controlled by jihadist group Al-Shabaab. Some of its neighbors have sent troops to help fight the Islamist group, which is affiliated to Al-Qaeda. Joining us on the news is Daron Bartlett, an East African journalist, to discuss more on this. Thank you so much, Daron, for talking to us.
Thank you so much.
So why did it take this long for Somalia to join or to gain entry into the EAC? Is it due to the size of its economy or probably decades of debilitation that has characterized the country?
Now, Somalia first its interest in 2012 to join the economic bloc, but at the time it was turned down because of the stability of the country. And you know that the East African bloc has actually built itself on principles of rule of law, human rights, and justice systems that happen in different countries. And once that is proven, then it's easier to join the bloc. But at that time, Somalia had an issue where they didn't have a stable country. In fact, they didn't even have a democratic process to elect a leader in that country. Now, last year, they put in a request again to join the economic bloc, and again reinforced it in August. And finally, on Friday, the presidents of the different 7 countries in the bloc met in Arusha in Tanzania and approved the joining of Somalia, even when they had some challenges or they had put across the table in terms of security, and felt like if there's going to be free movement of people, they might let in some rebels from Al-Qaeda joining, or the terrorists from Al-Qaeda moving freely within the East African bloc, and yet they have already hit some of these countries, including Uganda, Tanzania itself, and Kenya. So there was a concern of security, but when it comes to the economic benefit of it, Somalia has a route to the Arabian Peninsula. That is the 3,000 kilometers coastline that can link easily the East African goods to that point. But also, Somalia doesn't do a lot of importation because there was that, they freely didn't trade with other countries, of course, because of the fear that is there. So that opens up an opportunity for Somalia to be able to trade with the $7 billion dollar economy that is already there in the East African bloc. So there's an opportunity for them to trade within East Africa and boost their economy, but also the other East African countries, the 7, also have an opportunity to tap into the potential economic growth that is going to most likely happen in Somalia. They have a good projection, but most of them have been promises that are going to be improving their economic environment and security environment. So those are the 2 things that the presidents looked at and said, okay, fine. There looks to be that there's hope in Somalia, so they went ahead and admitted Somalia to the bloc.
And that actually seems to speak to the country's resilience to have a more structured socio-political and economic system run in the country. So let's quickly just run through a few of the benefits that could accrue to the country in the next coming years. Now, you've talked about a few of the potential that it has along its coastal line. Now, what are the major benefits in terms of trade that could come to the country? Of course, we tie that to political stability. You've talked about security. What other areas do you think that the country can benefit by joining this particular community?
Well, Somalia is going to open up itself to free movement of people. We see Somalis, people from Somalia move to different countries like Kenya to go and access some education that they're probably not able to access in Somalia. Also enjoy employment benefits that come with that pact that once you're a member of East Africa, yes, you can move into the region and be able to also be employed in another country. So they have those 2 very big benefits for them, because the country itself, being in a state they have been in, you find that there's less literacy levels in the country, and also, there's also the trade barriers that are going to be removed from them. That means they'll be able to export what they can, especially things to do like with wheat, which they don't grow much, but at least they grow something that can be taken to the region. But they will also be able to access goods from other regions, goods like milk, goods like other food, cereals, maize. If you've been following the news recently, they have been hit by a flood. So there was a possibility that about 5 million Somalis may find themselves or be affected by the droughts that will come after. And so if there's going to be drought, that means they don't have access to food or clean water or other services and the basic needs that the person from Somalia needs. And these are the things that can be easily accessed through the route of Kenya and South Sudan, and also as far as Uganda, who have been exporting, but at a minimum level, to Somalia.
Now, Somalia has seen decades of conflict since 1991, according to reports, and many parts of the country are controlled by jihadist group Al-Shabaab. So now that we're seeing a little bit of economic progress and prospects for the country, what are the guarantees that the political and socio-economic instability that we've seen so far in the country has come to an end? Because we wouldn't want to have this sort of progresses being recorded or these lofty ideas coming into play, but then we now have setbacks that drags the country back.
Now, I will say that the East African countries, especially Kenya, Uganda, and Burundi, were deploying their security forces into Somalia under AMISOM. Now, AMISOM's mandate was ending, and now there was concern that the Somalia security forces cannot, they don't have the capacity to contain the Al-Shabaab on how fast they spread sometimes, and also the regions they have been controlling as them. Now, once the mandate ends and yet they have joined the East African bloc, that automatically makes the East African bloc responsible. I mean, they will definitely sit down and deploy security into Somalia. So that means we don't have to, the bloc doesn't have to go to AU or EU to go and find, more security forces to reinforce what is happening in Somalia. So one thing I know is that the security, the East African bloc security will definitely be deployed in Somalia and secure it at least a level that the region will be comfortable to actually operate business in there. So that is one, it's a given. It must happen the same way it happened for DRC. The moment they joined the bloc, that is when it took about 4 months for the East African bloc to deploy security in there, because it's one of the mandates that you will enjoy security deployments in case of instability from the bloc. So that is going to be one of the given things, and it will be a bigger benefit compared to the economic side of it, because that's what they're suffering from, mostly insecurity. So the biggest benefit as of now will be security that they have to pay for high amounts of money that they don't have to rely on in terms of donations. No, because it's going to be a mandate for the East African leaders to see that they also secure the country. Now, the system in the East African blocs works on rotation basis. Now, just recently, the president who was heading the bloc is the Burundian president, Evaresi, who is stepping down and now giving power to the South Sudan president, Salva Kiir. It means that as they rotate, that there's going to be a point in time where the leader of Somalia will be the head of the bloc, and they will use it to their advantage to improve their security, but also improve their economic position on the bloc. So it's a given. They're going to benefit much more from it in terms of security.
All right, Daron Bartlett, East African journalist. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.